Welcome to the WanderLearn podcast. I'm your host, Francis Tapon. In this episode, I interview Xavier Himma, who is a Canadian who biked from his city in Canada all the way down to southern Patagonia. Crazy trip, many months, many hardships, many challenges, and he overcame them all to get down to southern Argentina. Quite an adventure. You'll love to hear all about the details. He gives a lot of practical advice of what he would have done differently, what kind of things that you need to do to prepare for such a crazy bike ride trip. So prepared to get a very sore butt on this trip, just talking about it. Lastly, I want to draw attention to healthaccesssumbawa.org, and I also want to thank all my Patreons, supporters at patreon.com/ftapon. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the WanderLearn podcast. I'm your host, Francis Tapon, and today I'm here with Xavier Himma, or Xavier, if you want to say Xavier, right?
Yeah.
and you have a website.
The website is called Follow the Hum of the Earth, and my YouTube channel is called Hum of the Earth.
Now, why Hum of the Earth?
There was kind of, at the time I was making kind of the channel and everything, I was kind of researching and learning more about kind of the vibrations of the earth and how a lot of things are, if not everything, is kind of interacting with each other through like kind of pulsating waves.
Is this like a spiritual wave, or is this what kind of wave?
I think it's been proven by science in some ways or another that, you know, animals and stuff like that communicate through kind of certain vibrations and frequencies and stuff like that, and that, you know, maybe even more things do that we're not quite aware of. But also, it's just a name that it can kind of mean whatever you want it to, you know, once you start watching the videos and stuff.
Right. Now, you took a fucking amazing trek from the Canada-US border near Ottawa, and then you hauled your little bike all the way down through South America, and you finished at what point exactly?
El Calafate in Argentina, which is pretty south, kind of the last one of the last bigger towns in the southern part of Patagonia. So in this part of the world, there's humongous glaciers. I think I went to see El Perito Moreno, which is, I believe, the third biggest glacier in the world. So it was getting kind of chilly down there.
Yeah, I bet. What month were you in there? Were you in there in their winter, I guess? It was like March?
It was actually kind of in their fall. It was beginning to become the winter. But I had tried to time it so I could be there in a decent time, so I could actually bicycle through there with my current setup, which isn't really a winter setup.
Yeah, I was watching one of your YouTube videos, and I saw that some Americans, I think somewhere in, maybe it was Peru, just gave you one of their poncho tarps because you were freezing your ass off going over a pass. Tell us that story. Go ahead.
Well, before my trip, my dad gave me this really nice rain jacket, which was like kind of protects you from the rain in some places, and some places lets you breathe. But I guess throughout the travel, maybe because of the sun or whatever, it just kind of stopped working, and it kind of a gradual thing. But that day I was over 4,000 meters, so pretty high elevation in Peru. It was pretty cold, and it
4,000 meters for people. It's roughly around 14,000 feet, I think, roughly, base maybe 13. I can't remember. Anyway, it's between 12 and 15,000 feet. It's high.
Yeah, so it was quite cold there. And it started raining, so I put on my jacket, and at that point, just the rain was just going fully through it. So I was really, really cold. I had made it to this town, and I was asking around if there's anywhere I could stay, and there didn't seem to be anything. So I was.
What time of day was this?
It was kind of late afternoon.
Okay.
So I was just about like going to start like going to random houses and knocking on doors and just, you know, asking for refuge. But before it got to that, this couple pulled over and they said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No."
I'm hypothermic.
Almost. I think I almost.
Yeah, of course. You were shivering, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, big time.
That's the first stage of hypothermia.
Yeah, so I guess it was starting. And they brought me in the car, and they gave me some fresh clothes temporarily so I could like try to dry my clothes. Well, I had other clothes too that I could use.
You must have looked completely pathetic for somebody to stop and say, "Hey, are you doing all right?"
Yeah, no, I'm and and I had like sunscreen all over my face too, so I looked. It didn't make sense because it was raining,
and it's snowing outside.
So yeah,
like, what is this dude?
I looked pretty odd and down on my luck. But they had some food and a warm car, and I warmed up so I wasn't shivering anymore. Got some fresh clothes on, and then it had totally cleared. It was sunny, and then I kept going and managed to make it to my destination only slightly after dark, so not too bad.
And that destination was a campsite, or were you actually going to stay in a hostel or something?
That time it was just like a cheap hotel.
Okay.
In like Peru, Bolivia, and even which are kind of some of the cheaper countries I've been through. Hotels are like $5 to like $7 US per night, so that's usually worth it.
Right. And so you went to that hotel, and the place where you were shivering and getting at the early stages of the hypothermia, you decided there was no hotel there, I guess. That's why you're thinking about knocking on strangers' houses?
Yeah.
Got it. So because it was a remote village, I guess.
Yeah, just some kind of houses on the side of the road.
Right. And just by chance that you ran into these Americans who are also driving through.
I was actually a French-Argentine couple, and they had bicycle toured before, so I guess they had some sympathy for my situation.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I remember I was driving through Sudan, and I saw this guy, and it was hot as fuck. It was so hot outside. And I see this lone biker on this flat, lonely road. And I'm like, only some crazy European or American would be doing this. And of course, I pull aside, and it's some German guy. And he's just like, I said, "Hey, do you want some water?" Because you're in the middle of the Sudan desert. And it's like, okay, thanks. Appreciate that. But you're just like, a fellow traveler looks at another traveler and says, "You know what? I kind of know where this guy is coming from. He's got to be in a low state." So there's that great, what we call in the trail world, we call that trail magic, just the random act of kindness from somebody. So how many days, Xavier, did you actually spend out from the time you left Canada to the time you got to the southern part of Patagonia in Argentina?
It was about a year and a half, maybe a little bit less.
Right. So 18 months. Now, of those days, of that 500 something days, what percentage of those days did you spend sleeping outside? Because you did have a tent, correct?
Yeah, it was probably around 20%. Again, just because it was worth it for me. Also because I make videos and stuff like that. To be able to find somewhere to make them after I'm done cycling. And again, it was like from $5 to $10 pretty much throughout Latin America. Right. So whenever it was in that price range, I would usually get a hotel room, and it usually was. The places where I did camp were the US and Chile and Argentina, because those were pretty much the most expensive countries that on the trip. Okay.
And what made you decide to stop in southern Patagonia? Was it mainly just the weather? Because so many people might look at a map and just have this kind of purist attitude and say, okay, I want to go from the northernmost point, whatever, I guess in your case, you would say the border of US, Canada, all the way down to Tierra del Fuego, Ushuaia, whatever, the southernmost point of the South American continent. So what made you stop a bit short? Because for you at that point, just is probably just another week or so to get down to that point.
Yeah. Well, it was early April, and from what I had researched and been told, going further south, well, at this time of the year, it would start to rain more and more, and obviously get colder because it's the beginning of the winter, and the winds get really, really intense the further you go down. And also the environment doesn't change as much. It isn't as scenic as I was previously, just kind of in the part of Patagonia where there's like the Andes running through it. And also, it's because it's so far south and isolated, everything is very expensive. So all the food is twice as expensive, and national parks are really expensive as well. And if you want accommodations, they're like 3 times the normal price. So just all those factors just kind of made me decide otherwise, because I'm a fairly frugal person. So when you're traveling long term, you kind of have to pick your shots. You can't do everything. Part of me wanted to do it, but the weather and the price of it, I just kind of, yeah.
Yeah, for those who haven't done much traveling, I mean, the going in wet rain, cold rain is far more dangerous than going into snow. As long as it's not like minus 40 snow, but basically, actually at that temperature, once it gets to be minus 20, it usually doesn't snow. Actually, I'm telling this to a Canadian. What the hell? You guys know this better than anybody. But the point is that cold rain, you should know this, right? I mean, it's just cold rain is just a killer. It really can sap your energy and is positively dangerous. So I can understand that when you got to that southern point in Patagonia, you're like, okay, I don't want to go further because I'm just going to be endangering myself. I'm going to be spending more money. And in the end, like I say, hike your own hike. You have to, pick your own thing. But when you had originally envisioned this trip, and this is kind of another question, how close did you approximate what you more or less envisioned? When you set out of Canada, did you think I'm just going to go to the border of the United States? Did you say I'm going to go to the end of Mexico? Or did you say I'm going to go to the Tierra del Fuego?
Well, I'd heard of Patagonia and seen some pictures and videos and stuff like that, so I knew I wanted to go there. But it was never really like in my mind like I was gonna go like to the end of the world just for saying I've done it. I mean, I understand the appeal of doing that, but I guess I'm just not like that myself, really. It was just more for the adventure of just learning and meeting new people and seeing new parts of the world, and just having fun and enjoying the trip, which I did. So yeah, Patagonia was an amazing finish for me.
Xavier, if you had to do this all over again, and you were advising somebody who's listening to this who wants to more or less reproduce your route and take a bike down the Americas, what would you say? This is where I fucked up. This is my mistakes. This is what I would do differently.
Well, this wasn't a mistake for me, but I think it could potentially be a mistake for other people. So this was my first bicycle tour, and I'd never done any bicycle tours, like not even for a weekend before going on this trip. I was just for some reason like super confident that I was going to love it, and I did end up loving it. But the first like week was really hard. Like in my mind, I don't know what I was thinking or I wasn't thinking, but I was doing like 30 kilometers at first every day, and I thought that was a lot.
Which is 20 miles, which is like something I would walk.
Yeah. So that's the kind of
through
mileage,
the mountains.
That's the kind of mileage I was doing when I was started, and I thought that was a lot. And then one of the first nights, I looked on my Google Maps because I had left later than I wanted to, because I was actually planning originally to do a car trip, and then I changed last minute to a bike trip. So I ended up pushing it back a few weeks. So it was now in October in northern U.S. So it was, I had to think about, the winter and be ahead of it and stuff like that. So I was looking at the map and how many kilometers I had to do before like January, which is when I wanted to be in Mexico. And I realized that I wasn't even like doing half or not even close to half what I was supposed to do every day. And I had a bit of anxiety there. I was like, oh my God. And my butt, your butt is really sore the first few days too.
Oh yeah.
So, but I just kind of tweaked my mentality a little bit, and I ended up doing more and more every day, just kind of pushing myself. And then, I was in probably, in not that long, I was doing close to, 100 kilometers. And then at the end of the trip, I can do like 165, I think I did once.
Which is 100 miles.
Yeah. So, so I guess my advice would be, maybe try it out like a few times if you can do like 2 weeks, and just know that those first few days are going to be kind of the hardest ones. But once you kind of get used to it and you enjoy certain aspects of it that you think you can enjoy on a long term, then those kind of pains in the first few days, mentally and physically, you get over it, and then I think after that I just kept on loving it more and more as I progressed through the trip.
What did you learn about the different cultures that you ran into in Latin America? Did you find there's a tendency in the United States, or probably North America in general, probably Canada too, that, Latin Americans are the same, more or less, tendency that we have to generalize. So how did you say, whoa, the Bolivians are completely different than the Peruvians or whatever? And it's hard to tell, of course, because you're just biking through, and it's not like you spend a ton of time in each place you're staying, I imagine. You got to keep moving. But any impressions regarding the cultural differences that kind of hit you hard and you're like, oh my God?
Yeah. I think my first big culture shock was going from the US to Mexico, because there is, a decent amount of similarities between countries within Latin America. They do kind of have, some cultural things that they share with each other. But looking back on it, Mexico, even though it was the most shocking at the time, is probably the most the country that's the closest to the U.S., especially when you're in cities and stuff like that culturally, I find. And then some countries that are more indigenous, like Bolivia, and they'll have really different kind of cultural and religious traditions, such as kind of worshiping Mother Nature, and there's all kinds of rituals that are associated with that, even sacrifices that you give to to this day to Mother Nature for doing well on an exam, or building a new house, or some kind of business project and stuff like that. Argentina is kind of the European country, and Chile as well a little bit, or I guess both of them are kind of like the European countries of South America. I was kind of in shock when I got into past the northwest part of Argentina, which is Bolivia, but when I got into the real Argentina, the first city, people are kissing on the cheek. They eat all their meals several hours later than everyone else. They eat a small breakfast with only croissants. All of a sudden, everybody's smoking cigarettes, which is very rare in Latin America. And it's just kind of, you feel like you're in Europe all of a sudden. So there is some changes.
Yeah, no, I imagine it's pretty dramatic, some of the things that you saw as far as changes. And what about dealing with currencies and that kind of stuff? Was there any problem that way, or was it pretty straightforward? You just got to the border and changed currencies?
Yeah, once you've done it once or twice, you kind of get a routine to kind of make sure you're not getting ripped off. So basically, whatever money you have left the night before crossing over, you'd want to look at the currency exchange rate and then calculate how much that should be for whatever money you have left. And then that you would typically exchange at the border. Maybe do the math on your phone as well, just to make sure that, because I've heard of calculators that are kind of rigged sometimes, so they can rip you off at the border sometimes. I don't think it really happened to me. I think I did get ripped off once, but it was my fault. I didn't really count it after he gave it to me. So after that, I'd always count it. And then after that, once you exchange whatever kind of small amount of money you've had at the border, then you'd want to look up which ATMs have little to no fees for foreigners, because some of them can be quite expensive. So that can save you a lot of money, just that habit of researching which ATMs are best.
Yeah, that's good advice. I was watching some of your videos on YouTube, and I was shitting in my pants sometimes, because I got sweaty palms just looking at you sometimes, because you were on these highways, these roads, and there you are on your little bicycle, and these big trucks are driving right by you, just, zooming by and it's raining and whatever. And I was thinking to myself, my God, you're just like 1 meter away from death all the time for the entire trip.
Yeah, like a million times. Yeah.
Exactly. 1 million times of brushes with death every single time. And it's not a joke because there's a lot of bikers who die doing what you've done. And did you have any close calls? Did you have a situation where you're like, you know what? This is a little bit too risky.
Surprisingly, like at first I was really kind of scared. I was just not used to having cars just be that close on roads. When I started going on roads that didn't have a shoulder, so an area that's kind of out of the lane for the bicycle. Right. So then when I was in the same lane as cars, I was getting scared. I would go like off the road and stuff like that. But then I realized I can't be going off the road every time a car comes,
Right. You could make it even more dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. You'll end up getting a flat and fall and, who knows.
Maybe not a flat, but you just hit a little pebble and that tweaks your wheel. And then all of a sudden you fall right in front of the car. And it's not even the car's fault. It's your fault. But anyway, yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, but actually throughout the trip, like the drivers have been like super courteous, always like giving room if they have something to give. I mean, I say always, I mean 99.9% of the time. Like I was really surprised with the drivers, even in countries where even the locals all the time would tell me, oh, be careful, the drivers are crazy here. And then, sometimes there was some drivers that, don't give a lot of space and they don't slow down when they're moving. But for the most part, drivers have been really good. I only had one close call, and it was a very close call. I was going up a hill in Mexico towards Morelia, and at the top of the hill there was a
Where's Morelia? Is that northern Mexico or southern Mexico?
Southern Mexico.
Okay. Near Chiapas?
Yeah, it's in Chiapas. Or was it
You're going up the hill?
Or was it the province before Chiapas?
Anyway,
it's in southern Mexico. Yeah, I was going up the hill, and then this big black dog just comes running straight towards me, which is fairly common. And then I just, without thinking, I just kind of swerved a little bit into the lane, and because it was a hill, there was a car coming that for some reason, I don't know, I didn't hear him, and he didn't see me. And then he kind of clipped the front of my bicycle, and I kind of went tumbling off.
Wait, sorry. He was coming behind you?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was coming behind you, and you swerved into his lane.
More into the middle of the lane, And he tried to avoid me, but he still clipped me a little bit, and I fell off. So that was, a really close call. And then since then, I just... That specific error of moving in because I'm scared of the dog, I don't do anymore. Really the safe thing if you're in a situation where there's a dog encounter, which happens a lot when you're bicycling, something about your legs going like this, they think you're running away from them, and it kind of triggers their animal predator instinct or whatever to chase you. So it happens a lot. So if you're going downhill or you're flat and you're already really going fast, then I would usually just keep going, just bicycle really fast, and usually they won't catch up to you. But if you're going uphill, like at this situation, or if you don't have a lot of speed and it's flat, I would actually just kind of stop the bike, make sure that you have enough room and you're safe, and then I would just bend over for a rock, and that was usually enough to scare them. I don't even have to pick up a rock or throw it, just because I think it seems in Latin America, or maybe they been evolved to be scared of people grabbing for rocks or something. That's usually enough to scare them away. So that was a tough lesson, but it could have been worse.
Yeah, it definitely could have been worse. That's amazing. And one of the things also, I love the outdoors, and I always encourage people to go however whether they're going on foot, on a bike, or even in a car. It's just great to get outside. At the same time, I've never found the appeal of doing a bike ride like you've done because of the safety issues, number one. And number two, I thought, well, what is the biker going to see that I can't see from a car or a bus or any other mode of, safer mode of transport and yes, you save money, but the other hand, you're spending like an extra probably $10 a day just on food because you have to, fill up those calories that you burnt. So, if I'm sitting my ass on a bus taking it, I'm not eating as much. I'm probably eating far less calories, probably half the amount of calories that you're consuming by biking those same kilometers. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of financial sense, it seems to me. I could always carry a tent in the bus and then just camp. I've done that, and I'm seeing more or less the same scenery. I have the advantage on a bus. I can read if I need to read or whatever. I'm protected from the elements. So what would you say, was the appeal for you?
Well, I'd already was enjoying cycling, but only for like an hour at a time, just for exercise. As well as in a car, like when you're driving, because I was originally thinking of doing it with a car, not with buses, just because I like the freedom aspect of it, just being able to go wherever you want, whenever you want. You don't have to wait in a bus or... and also I find in buses sometimes in Latin America, because I usually like to be like in the Andes, like, because that's where it's the most beautiful for me. So when you're on those mountain roads, I mean, I get pretty nauseous on buses and stuff like that, and if I'm not the one in control. So yeah, and the bicycling, I love cycling, and I feel good when I'm exercising. And you can... like you said, with a tent, you can go off-road, and with a bicycle, you can as well to go to some more remote wild camping spots that if you had a car, you couldn't do that, not as much. And yeah, I mean, you smell stuff, you hear stuff, you're going slower, so you do see more things. Even though you're taking the same road in a car or a bus, it goes by a lot faster, so you definitely miss stuff. And yeah, and I just feel good doing the exercise. So I'm just in a better mood most of the time.
Right. I mean, it is more meditative in that sense. You get to sit back. Oh, what were some of the takeaways that you've learned, and has this inspired you to take other journeys?
Well, I mean, when you're bicycle touring, a lot of the times there'll be unexpected kind of challenges, either bicycle problems or... a road closure or really bad weather or something like that. But you eventually realize that, the second you calm down and get over whatever obstacle is presented to you, that you can always find a solution. And so that's kind of given me confidence for in the future, doing adventures that might even be a little bit more challenging, because, I mean, if I was able to do from Canada to Patagonia on a bicycle, I can probably do some more even more adventurous stuff, which I think I will be doing in the future. And yeah, and I've learned that I really love bicycle touring. I mean, I can't even see myself traveling any other way. The times where I did have to take a bus and stuff like that, I didn't nearly enjoy it as much as bicycling. So I guess I've learned that.
Speaking about more challenging things, I looked at the map and you decided to skip, it seems like, the Darrien Gap, the infamous Darrien Gap. For those who don't know, that is actually not a gap. It's a gap in the highway, but it's a connected part in the southern part of Panama going into Colombia. And forever, it has no part of the international highway that goes through all the Americas. It's the only place, it's the only gap from in the Americas. And it's the only place where you have to basically go on foot. But I think you could go on a bicycle. If you had certainly a mountain bike, you could probably make it. Yeah.
In theory, it is possible to do with a mountain bike, which I did not have. I had more of a road bicycle myself. Right. But that route is a very common drug trafficking route. Right. And because there's no police or anything, because it's kind of a no man's land, there's also, like guerrilla groups and, kind of some dangerous people kind of reside in that area. And it's very mountainous, and I mean, you might find some tracks, but there's no like roads like on your GPS, I think, that would guide you, with some kind of assurance that you're going the right way, So there's a lot of question marks. It's definitely for the most adventurous traveler. And even at that, it might not be a good idea, even if you're a real expert in this kind of traveling through jungles and stuff like that. It could still be a bad idea. So I took the cheapest option, which was taking a flight from Panama City to Cartagena.
Yeah, since I was about 26, I was fascinated with the Darrien Gap, and even in the 1970s there were some lunatics / idiots who were walking, writing books about crossing the Darrien Gap, and it has been forever a sketchy zone. I don't know forever, but for as long as recorded history of being this very sketchy, dangerous thing. But because of that, it totally fascinates me. It's like this last place where there is no official highway. At the same time, I gotta believe that in that gap, there is a very well marked trail. Because there is so much trafficking, there's got to be, a thoroughfare that kind of goes through it. If not more than one, there's probably like multiple ways to go through it. But there's probably like the main road that everybody likes to take on foot or by bicycle or whatever they're doing. Or maybe they have some sort of crazy ATV. It could probably do it as well. Obviously, you couldn't do it because you had, like you said, a road bike. And so if you did another adventure, would you maybe take a mountain bike and go a little bit more off trail and do some more dirt roads and muddy roads and that kind of stuff? Because I remember some people do that, crazy trips that purposefully avoid all the good roads and take shit roads the whole way.
Yeah. No, that's definitely appealing to me, and it's probably something I'll do in the future. And again, it comes with just, the more experience you have, the more you're ready for more adventurous stuff. And usually when you're going on these dirt roads, typically this will be less populated areas, because when it's the most populated areas, that's when you'll have the paved road. And then when you go on the dirt roads, that's when you're going into the more adventurous areas, which is always fun. But it does require typically more planning, and sometimes I'm just too lazy to do that. You have to calculate, okay, how long do I think am I going to be going this way on this detour or excursion? How much food do I need? Really look at the map to see where are the towns or potential places where I might be able to get food, if any. What am I going to do for water, etc. So it requires more planning than I was typically doing on the trip. Although I did have some areas, long stretches. I'm thinking right now of the Patagonian desert on the Argentinian side. There was at times several hundred kilometers with absolutely nothing. But thankfully, I knew that was coming. I'd heard of it, so I planned ahead.
Right. No, it's amazing logistics that you had. It's such a crazy adventure. Do you know how many flat tires you had? I'm going to ask the listeners to say, okay, guess how many flat tires Xavier had. I'm going to guess 9. And what's the answer?
It's a lot more than 9.
God.
I think if I ever get a world record, it will be for the most flats on a bicycle tour. I think it would be for this trip.
Really? So can you take a wild guess then? Was it 50 or something, or crazy?
I mean,
were you getting one every week, basically?
I think it's like 30 to 50. I wasn't counting.
Like twice a month?
Yeah. I mean, it felt like more than twice a month, but
there was probably stretches there where you got one almost every day.
Yeah. There's stretches where it happens a lot, and there's long stretches where you don't get any. So hard to do the math here. But yeah, 30 to 50, I would say. But I've gotten I'm really good at changing flats, so that's the positive.
Did you ever run out of? I mean, I guess you always had tape or whatever it is, like gooey stuff to like make a patch, right? So even if you didn't have a full-fledged tube, you still had a patch kit. Yeah,
but the first time that I got to that situation in Central America where I didn't have any new tubes and I had to start patching, I didn't actually know how to patch properly. I thought I was doing correctly, but I wasn't, and it was just not working. So I had some trying times in Central America. But like I said earlier, I mean, if you stay calm and you think rationally, there's usually a solution, and I eventually made it out of there.
And you never had any close calls where people were like either harassing you or taking a gun to your head or doing that kind of stuff or catching you when you're camping?
I don't think I was ever put a gun to my head, but one gentleman on the side of the highway at one point tried to convince me he had a gun. But upon further inspection, I deemed that it was unlikely to be a pistol, and I just swerved around him and kept going.
Oh, that's amazing. So what was he doing? Was he just saying, para, para, para? Was he saying, stop, stop, stop?
I couldn't understand him, but he just kind of got in my way and was yelling angrily at me. And this was in between Cartagena and Santa Marta in a pretty desolate stretch. And then he was just kind of showing me that he had some kind of metal thing in his belt. I guess he wanted me to think it was a pistol. But then when I looked at it, I realized it wasn't. So I kept going. But if I would,
that all happened in seconds.
Yeah. And if I would have stopped, which some people might have thought to be the safe thing in case it was a pistol, but I think I would probably gotten beaten up and stolen my bicycle. So,
right, yeah, no, it's always hard, and you have a split second to make these decisions. That's what makes it so hard, and sometimes, usually instincts are pretty good, but sometimes they're not. It's just wow. So you don't know what's next in Xavier's life?
I do.
2020. What's on the agenda?
So kind of like I was talking earlier, thinking of different adventures and stuff like that. My next plan is once I'm finished enjoying friends and family here in Canada, and I'm ready for the next part of the journey, I will be flying to South Africa and going through Africa northward. Mostly in kind of the eastern part of the country, continent.
Wow. And do you think you'll get all the way up to Cairo?
Yes, I have. There's kind of two options in my head right now of how I will exit Africa. I wanted to do like Cape Town to Cairo, and then I believe you'd go through like Israel, but then there's kind of Syria there. Kind of in the way, so I'll have to do some research and see how that would be. I know you did some traveling in Africa quite a bit. Have you been north of Africa fairly recently, or?
No, I never left the African continent for those 5.5 years I was traveling. So I did go into the Sinai Peninsula, but I didn't go to Israel or any of that kind of stuff. So. It's, the situation's very fluid, and I think Syria is probably, by the time you go, let's say in the 2020s, I think it will be probably more safe. Maybe Israel will be a war zone or Lebanon will be in the shit. It's like you'd never know there in the Middle East. But one thing I have learned in all my travels and traveling to all the countries in Africa, things are always more scary than it seems. A lot of people, and you probably learned that in your travels too. You're like, oh, you're going to Colombia, man. Colombia is very dangerous. And you're like, no, it's not. It's not that bad, except for that one guy on the road in Colombia.
Well, I think he was probably Venezuelan, because I was seeing a lot of Venezuelan people, not saying that Venezuelans are bad or anything. I just mean that, their economy is kind of in a bad situation. So you would see a lot of them go from one city to another, from unsuccessful job attempts at finding a job. So they were probably in a bad situation, and he saw me as a chance to eat.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. So that's one exit option from Africa is going through Israel. What was you could just end at Jerusalem. That's kind of poetic. I mean, Jerusalem is a meeting of three religions.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I would definitely go there. And the other thing I was thinking of, if Syria was too dangerous upon my research, so obviously I'm going to reevaluate the situation in like however many months. The other option was when I get to Ethiopia, going eastwards towards the coast, I think to Somaliland, and then taking a boat to Oman, going through Oman, which I hear is pretty beautiful, and then taking another boat into Iran. I had no idea how much that costs, but I did see someone on the internet using that option and really liking it. So I will evaluate the two, I think, probably further in the future.
You could also go to one of the hottest countries on earth. It's called Djibouti, and it's right off of Ethiopia right there as well. The nice thing, but it's super crazy hot every day of the year, except for December. It's still crazy hot in December, but it's at least a little bit tolerable. But that would be another elegant exit as well. And the Ethiopian route, there's I've never been to Oman, so I really don't know. But yeah, I'm sure it's beautiful too. Sounds like you've got a great trip. So if people want to follow your journey, where do they go?
So I think most people these days like a plain and simple YouTube for viewing as opposed to websites. So my YouTube channel is called Hum of the Earth. So that's written HUM of the Earth. So there I have videos of going from one place to another, kind of documenting the journey, the different challenges. So you can kind of ride along with me from the comfort of your couch. And I have other videos that are more specific of like a city or a mountain that I either hiked up or some national park or maybe an archaeological site and stuff like that. So different things that I saw along the journey. So kind of like taking you along with me if you're interested. So that's my...
And the website is humoftheearth.com?
The website is followthehumoftheearth.com.
Follow the Hum of the Earth.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll put that in the show notes, and so if people are listening to this on their podcast player, they'll be able to link and go to that.
Yeah, and on the website there's a map too, so that's can also be interesting. You can kind of click on the different places and see the videos and the blog posts I made of those places.
That's right. Yeah. So if you look at and you say, "Oh, I've always wanted to go to Guatemala," then you go to your Guatemala thing and click on Guatemala and watch some videos from Guatemala and your blog post. Yeah. Great. Xavier, best of luck. Stay safe. Stay in the bike lane.
Yeah.
If there is one.
There usually isn't, but I think I know what you mean. It's in spirit. It's the spirit, the thought that counts.
And that concludes this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel technology and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we talked about, or if you'd like to comment on the show, or if you'd like to ask me a question, then go to WanderLearn.com and click on the latest episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is the username I use on all social media. You can also get to my website by going to ftapon.com. Here's one last reason to remember Tapon. If you like what I do and want to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/, you guessed it, ftapon. That's where you can pick up some sweet rewards for as little as $1 a month. And remember, subscribing to the WanderLearn podcast helps, but downloading each episode helps even more. Please share the podcast, review it, and sign up for my newsletter at WanderLearn.com. This show was edited by Rejoice Tapon. The music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.